So yesterday there was an article, Birmingham Street Gangs Uniting with other cities to form super gangs. Now, if you remember this article when it released yesterday, there was a lot of discussion on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. People were inboxing, asking me questions, saying, yo, what's the madness with this? But there was also people that were saying, nah, this story is not true because this image is being used. And it's funny because someone done a presentation for me the other day and they actually used this same image a few months back. And it's funny because I'm looking through my iPad. I just typed on Google Birmingham Street Gangs. And as you see is the general pictures of people that have been incarcerated, people that have been locked up for things in related to guns. And as you can see, the image just comes up so many different times. 2010, 2009, as far as probably 2003. And it's funny that when I read these articles, I think to myself, why? Why did these journalists create these types of articles, and why did they put them out there as if it's something that is happening right now? Birmingham Street Gangs uniting with other cities to form super gangs. So the idea has already been set with the image that gangs are being formed within Birmingham and everybody's linking up and to start a big gang. Poor journalism, but let's look at it. So the UK's most feared street gangs are making peace with one another to form a national super gang. Many of the street gangs operating in the UK are in the process of forging an alliance with existing mafia-style organised crime networks to concentrate on the business of money making, meaning drug dealing. The sinister new network is a worrying trend as police forces across the country warn that parts of Britain are on the brink of other vicious drug wars and street gangs square up for control of the lucrative heroin and cocaine trade. According to a gangland and law enforcement source, efforts by UK gangsters to form a national super gang to form a pattern already established in the US and also in Amsterdam. And we got a direct quote from a former gang member. I like these ones as a former gang member. So the move is being driven by some of the older heads in Burger Bar and Johnson's crew in Birmingham, who have led what is described as a thug life, but have realised that basically it's got potential, it's got some economic benefit. I'm just going to stop right there because already when you look at the wording, it sells, it's very sensational, it's very exciting, it captures the eye, and people are just thinking, yo, this is going on in Birmingham. Madness. Let's just start at the two gangs that they've already mentioned, Burger Bar and Johnson's crew. Now let's be realistic. Do Burger Bar and Johnson's exist? Do they exist? If I was to take you right now to the northwest part of the city, Birmingham, I was to take you to any of the areas, Handsworth, Winson Green, Hockley, Newtown, Aston, Lozells, or any area outside of that, and ask a young person, do you know anybody in the Burger Bar boys, as they say, the Burger Bar boys, or do you know anybody in the Johnson's crew? Most youths will tell you no. So it's funny how they utilize these two names and they constantly use them as if these gangs are still operating. Now, if you're saying to me that there's individuals that might be affiliated to the gangs 5-10 years ago, how hard is that really? You live in the community, our communities are small. You live in Hockley or Handsworth, who don't you know that was once involved in something? But when they pull it out in these articles, it makes people believe that these things are still taking place. Another part that I've got, one of these gang sources said, the Johnnies have always had a link with Moss Side gangs in Manchester, while the Burger Bar boys are close to some London gangs like the PDC and Tottenham Mandem crew, etc. So again, they're selling this idea that for some reason Burger Bar boys, as they say, and PDC are uniting with each other in order to form this idea of a super gang. Now, for me, this is kind of disrespectful because even if you just look at some of the names that they've used, so okay, then let's look at PDC. Now, many of us know of who PDC was and the stories. There's books that they've even released. I've probably even got a book here that they've released, Street Child and other books. And I personally know some of these individuals in this group, and PDC, or what they're calling PDC here, is not what PD is right now. Jaja Souls, I'll say his name because he's a positive brother, doing a lot of stuff in schools, colleges, prisons, working with people in our community. And then they're going to turn around and say that his company, that he's turned around for positivity, individuals that are linking up with guys from the Burger Bar boys to link up and do this, whatever, the super gang. It's interesting, and I was reading through the article and I was kind of thinking to myself, what is it they're trying to do? What's they're trying to achieve? Somebody says, the director of the Centre of Social Justice, it's worrying because it can lead to an escalation of violence because merging gangs will inevitably clash existing organised crime networks that already operate on a national, international scale. So they're saying that PDC, Burger Bar, Johnson's are all linking up and there's some super gang and they're going to be in beef with other super gangs. Madness. Or it may be two groups that decide to work closely together, with street gangs being used to do most of the legwork and take most of the risk. Now let's be real, let's be honest. Now if we're talking about crime, let's just talk about crime in general. The reality is yes, there's people that are linking up in different areas. Yes, there might be people that are linking up in different cities. That's crime across the board. But I think when we keep labeling it as gangs, we also make the assumption that it's only black and Asian people that are involved in this. And for me, these articles are just a clear distraction of what's actually taking place in our community. I don't think there's a gang problem in Birmingham. I don't think there's a gang problem. I think there's young people that may have been affiliated, or they might have relatives that might be affiliated to gangs and whatnot. But I don't say there's a gang problem, and I'll explain what I mean. I believe that there's an issue of youth violence. If you're talking about young people that are involved in knife crime, gun crime, people attacking each other, etc., etc. But the young people that I work with in the community, they're not gangs as like this article's making out. These are just young people that are in the community, have issues, have beefs with different groups of people for whatever reason. But I wouldn't qualify that and say that is gang. I would say that's more interpersonal violence. But again, they're labeling it and making it as if that there's some big sinister thing going on. Again, for me, these are big distractions. These articles, in my opinion, all they do is it just causes moral panic. It causes people to be vigilant. It causes people to be scared, to be worried, to be thinking about things that is not what's truly going on. What they need to be doing is, why don't you do an article and go and interview the brothers from South London that are in PDC, and why don't you do articles about the positive works that they do? Why don't you interview the people that have been in these gangs historically and left, working in prison, working in our communities, have turned to faith, doing so many activities in our community to benefit not just themselves but also young people? Why don't you want to do articles about this? Rather, you would create something to get us to think and feel that there's something going on in our communities. Big distraction. There's issues in our community where young people are caught up in madness. And when I'm saying caught up in madness, I'm not saying necessarily gang. They're in petty beefs with different people from different areas amongst their own people. There's young people that can't find jobs. There's young people that are traumatized because of the madness that they see in their communities on a day-to-day. Why don't you write articles about that? Why don't you come to our communities and do that? And I'm not saying that you have to come to our communities and write these things, but why don't you just do something that has a little bit more sense and a little bit more credibility? It makes no sense that when we do these articles, and for me, it kind of irritates me that you have people that want to come into our community, they want to do documentaries, they want to do films, and all they want to do is highlight the madness, the badness. Let's talk about gangs, let's talk about crime, let's talk about these things. And I'm not saying that these things don't exist. I'll be silly to say that knife crime, gun crime, violence doesn't exist. But when you label it as gang, you label everything as gang. Come on, let's think of the last 8 murders around knife crime. Were they gang related? No, they wasn't. So when you put these articles out, you're putting out the assumption that every criminal activity that takes place with young people is to do with gangs. Or if there's young people in the community that are selling drugs or whatever, that somehow they're linking up and doing whatever, naturally people fall off. So when we keep using these two labels, our Burger Bar Boys, the Johnson's crew, you're outdated. You're still stuck in 2002, 2003. We're in 2015 now, depending on what calendar you go by. But the reality is we need to start utilizing these stupid things and start living up to the hype. Young people, we need to start documenting real things that's going on in our community. Let's focus on the real issues that take place in our community. This is just another distraction. Poor journalism, in my opinion. It's another distraction to distract us from the reality of what's taking place in our communities, the reality of what's really going on with young people, with the elderly, with mental health, with the issue of young mothers that are struggling, with the issue of fathers that are struggling, issues with young people because they're traumatized, young people because they need jobs. These are the real issues that are taking place in our community. There's no super gang, so eradicate that. And anybody that's still using this term burger bar boys and the Johnson's crew, you need to wake up, because the reality is something different.